On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the importance of golden, silver, and bronze age of comics. Welcome, guys. Welcome back to another episode, or welcome back to Mozam Geek. Hang on a second. You probably noticed this doesn't look like Mozam Geek. I mean, I'm Mozam Geek, but the channel, we've obviously rebranded it to the Thought Bubble. New profile picture, new banner, we have new socials, which will be in the link in the description at the end of this video and on our banner on our YouTube page. You've probably noticed Liam isn't here as well. Unfortunately, Liam wasn't able to do the podcast. We'll be making some appearances, but not permanently, as I found the next co-host, the next big thing, literally Spider-Man. Welcome.
Hello everybody, so glad to be here. Most of you know me as FN Webhead, but my name is Cooper for the podcast. And I'd like to clarify on video, FN stands for Friendly Neighborhood, nothing else. I think we have a pretty interesting first episode here. Mm-hmm. It's something that you and I have talked about outside the video. And
really, every time we hang out, really.
At some point, the conversation turns into this.
Yeah.
And I think finally we can get our ideas down, get some conversation out. I think we both have some really interesting things to bring to the table.
Exactly. I think when we were writing this episode out, we had too many things and had to really dumb it down a little bit to fit in the video. Just to clarify my relationship with FN Webhead, we are happily married.
We are.
No. We've known each other for quite a while now, probably since 2023 maybe? 2023 might have been Supernova, right. One of the Comic Cons. So only 2 years, which is actually crazy to think about. Seems very much longer, but yeah, so we're very, very close friends, very good friends outside of...
Maybe a bit too close.
Maybe too close, you know what I'm saying? But we're very close friends outside of this, and we found this huge passion for comic books for each other, as we're both die-hard. As people know from this channel, I'm a mega Superman guy. And I think clearly what we see from Cooper...
As you can tell, I'm a big Batman fan over here.
I thought it was Green Arrow. I thought it was Green Arrow.
Close enough. I mean, I do love Batman. He's my second favorite, but the GOAT, I mean, do I even have to say his name at this point?
No. But no, we found a huge passion for comic books and like a real passion. Like, I'll leave a description to our comic geeks in the description. More than welcome to follow us on there. I know I've just clocked in 800 issues of Superman. And I think Cooper, you've locked in about 750 or something like that with Spidey.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I've missed a couple because I'm not like you. I don't add every single comic. I'm not super up to date on it, but I try to add it in bulk. It's something ridiculous.
Yeah, it's definitely in the 700s for sure. So we're both huge comic book enthusiasts. If have not said that about a few thousand times. But yeah, we thought we will put our two brilliant brain minds together and relaunch the podcast, as it was something that I was very eager to get back up, and Cooper showed a lot of interest in getting it back up and running. So we thought a really good way to start the relaunch, the revamp, our Born Again is what I'm calling it. You know, we had the Netflix era with Mozam, and then this is our Disney Born Again era. Talking about older comics, so the Silver Age, Golden Age, and Bronze Age of comics, and the importance of that, because we feel like in really modern fans within the comic book community really overlook that era of comic books. I think because there's a lot of... I'll leave it to Cooper to explain, because I think this topic really hits Spidey really well.
It really does. I feel like a lot of modern day comic fans, like, they'll start off watching MCU or whatever reviews are coming out, and then they'll read the comics, and then they just brush off all the old ones, the important comics, your 60s, 70s, 80s. I mean, if you're talking Batman or Superman, you got when did Superman start? 20s, wasn't it? Or was it 30s?
Late 1938, so late 30s.
Okay, yeah, so 30s, 40s for Batman as well.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I see why, like, I understand why, even though in my opinion, I believe some of those comics are better than what we have now.
Oh, easily. Yeah.
I see why they're brushed off. You have, you know, extremely dated artwork. You have too much text in every single box, which we'll probably get into later because we talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
How much text is in those
Yeah,
pages.
crazy
Sometimes
amount, yeah.
sometimes it's more text than it is picture.
Yeah.
But like, I see why a lot of people these days brush off these older comics. But I feel like there's so much storytelling and so much
There's so much charm.
characterization.
A lot of
and,
charm,
yeah,
I think,
charm
with
too.
the 60s, especially I think the 60s era. I think mainly for Superman, you had Otto Binder right after the George Reeves era, which people know Adventures with Superman was the first, actually second live action version of Superman, was really the launch pad for Superman himself. You know, I think that show averaged 2 to 3 million viewers worldwide each week.
Days.
So that was the huge thing, you know, every week. And unfortunately, George Reeves passed away mid-50s, late 50s. And so Jerry Schuster and Joe Siegel were kind of like, how do we revamp Superman? How do we make him unique and interesting and marketable if we don't have George Reeves driving that? And so an amazing writer, Otto Binder, came on to Superman and Action Comics. And at the time, they were writing Superboy, which we'll get on to how many ongoing titles they were at the time. But they came on and they really delved into the lore of Superman. They did the whole story of Krypton. They did Brainiac and introduced the bottled city of Kandor, if people know Superman. They did Supergirl. So that was a big thing. Another Kryptonian who was Supergirl. They did Krypto. They did Smallville, Martha, and John. So that really helped expand Superman as a character. So I think when we talk about that era, especially that era, like the Silver Age of the 50s and 60s, like they're the literal foundations of those characters. And I'll hand it on to Cooper now because, I mean, the Silver Age is where Spidey started.
Yes. I mean, I've gone back and I've read, you know, the Ditko comics maybe twice. And as probably one of the biggest fans, I don't know if that's too much to say that, but I feel like I'm probably one of the biggest Spidey fans in the state. I think
you are. I think Adelaide.
I feel like I've earned that
people
title.
know we're based in Adelaide, so it's not a very big place.
But I feel like there's maybe a couple other people in here. You know, we've got a couple friends that are very, very versed in the Spidey lore.
Good friends, yeah.
But hopefully that we'll have on at some point.
Yeah, we definitely will for sure.
I mean, even for me, they're extremely hard to read.
Yeah.
And I praise myself on, you know, reading everything, but it's still like, for me, it's even hard to read as well.
Yeah, extremely
even
hard.
Though I feel like some of his best stories are in there. Some of his most iconic, you have, you know, obviously you have the first Spider-Man story ever. I mean, it's Fantasy 15.
Yeah.
And you have If This Be My Destiny. I guess that's kind of the big main two ones from Ditko, John, unless I'm stupid.
Yeah.
But
we got all the first appearances of major characters like Vulture and all that stuff.
I feel like they are very important comics, but I feel like they're kind of like, you don't need to read, you know what I mean? You don't need to read the first appearance of Vulture. Like, he's just an evil guy that needed money. All his best comics came 100 issues later, you know what I mean? But I feel like just in general, Spidey's effect during the 60s, the Silver Age, right?
Yeah, Silver Age, yeah.
Like,
to point out, sorry, the Silver Age was 60s, the Golden Age was the 40s and 50s, and Bronze Age was about 70s and 80s. Just so if people weren't sure what era of comics, yeah.
But yeah, because I mean, a teenage superhero was the first, right? I mean,
yeah, because
you had Robin, but they were sidekicks. You know what I mean? Sidekicks only.
You had Superboy, which was just a young Clark Kent in a way, was a teenager. Yeah. But he wasn't a main character because everybody knows Superboy becomes Superman. You know what I mean? It wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't Spider-Boy and then Spider-Man. You know what I mean? And Superboy, did they do that after Superman?
So they
he was
did
Superman
that
first, and then they went back in time, like did a prequel comic. Or
it was during the 50s when that was when Otto Binder's start on Superman started. Was Superboy. It was just a marketing thing, trying to get some more Superman content out there. We'll go into that later in the video, but yeah, it was just a marketing thing. But it was like Action Comics, Superman, and then it was just those two for a while, then Superboy, and then but obviously Superman, Action Comics, all that stuff.
exactly. Um, and I feel like a lot of the '60s Spider-Man stuff. There's a big thing, and if you're big in the Spidey fandom, or if you're big on Spidey online, there's lots of debate around how Peter should act, because he was a bit of a, I'm allowed to say arsehole. He's a bit of an arsehole in
Yeah,
the Ditko
yeah,
comics.
say
Like he's a bit of a
arsehole,
meanie. He's a bit of a rude guy, and a lot of people think that he's lost that. And if you look at what's happening now, I mean, with Paul and all that drama, and he's kind of acting like, I don't know how to put this in nice words. He's not acting himself really.
No.
He's acting like he has no spine, he has no backbone.
Well, they're not progressing him as much as what they should be.
I saw something online that encapsulated everything in a perfect way, and it was Spider-Man comics used to be fun when you're reading about these characters growing up. Like they're going through life, they're growing up, they're facing different challenges as they get older. And now the writers just want to keep them the same age forever.
Yeah.
And they want to have all these problems that no one cares about. I mean, like when I was reading Spider-Man, he was 15 when he got bit. And then, because they used to do it in real time back then. So he was 15, and then a couple years later in real life, he was 18. And then they realized, oh, hold on, these characters are aging too fast. We need to slow it down. So like when I was reading it, I was the same age as him at the time. So I was quite literally growing up with him at the same time. And then in the Romita era, I could be wrong. I mean, this is just off the top of my head, but I think it was like pre-issue 70. So like 39 to 70. He was 19 to 20, I think. And he was just about to turn 21. I remember thinking, oh wait, I'm about to turn 21. I was like, I'm literally the same age as him right now. And you see these problems that they're going through, and it's you don't really see a lot of these things anywhere else, and it's very special, but you just don't get that anymore. I mean, I'm sure you do with other comics, but
I mean, a great example for that is, I think the problem with modern comics now is that I think more so Marvel, I'll use again Superman and Batman's a good example, is they always knew Superman can't keep chasing Lois Lane. He had to end up with Lois Lane at some point. And which they did during the Dan Jurgens run. And during that run, I think it's issue 50 is when Clark proposes to Lois and says, will you marry me? Like before that, girlfriend, boyfriend, and then they marry. And then I think it's issue like 55, 56 is when they have a break. And then they have a break, and then it's an anniversary issue. They end up getting back together and having the big wedding. There's a beautiful wedding issue, which is really.
Can
nice.
I interject for a second? The wedding of Clark and Lois, how big was that? Because obviously, I'm a Superman fan, but I haven't read any as much as you.
It wasn't as big, like, because obviously we know the marriage of Spidey and MJ was massive. That everybody knows that huge event they did in the baseball field. Oh yeah, you have it on your bed there. Very nice. They had that huge event on the baseball field, and they had actual people dress up as Spidey and Cap. I think the reason, going back to the progression of characters, is during that run, they just knew they were going to end up together. Like you could see a real progression with Clark and Lois, and then later on, New 52 just ruined that. They retconned that. They were never together. And then we unfortunately got Superman and Wonder Woman, which we won't talk about, which is just one of the worst writing decisions I've ever made in my life.
Don't even get
that I've made, but like DC Comics have ever made. But something was really great was in Rebirth, was that they retconned it again because New 52 messed it up so much, and Superman had a kid. He had John, and they moved into Smallville. They had a family. You see Clark in a different light, rather than, we see him trying to be Superman. We see him trying to be a father and trying to raise a son, which is something we've never seen Superman do. It's a brand new challenge to Superman. It's nothing Superman can punch his way out of. He can't find a way in the Fortress of Solitude to get out of it. He has to raise a son. It's something that every human being goes through. And so with that, DC decided to progress Superman as a character to age him up to being a father. They were doing the same with Batman when they brought Damian into the mix with Rebirth. and they made Damian a Robin, and Bruce is trying to be a father, and also at the same time to maintain the family of Dick and Jason and Tim. But with Spidey, what we see, especially with Zeb Wells and really the modern, really, it would really be everything after JMS, right? Was kind of the downfall. Dan Slott kind of saved it a little bit, but then ruined it a little bit.
I'd say Dan Slott's run, I think it's not, a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people hate it.
Yeah.
I think it's okay. It's fine. I mean, he wrote like all that stuff up to the Spider-Verse, the original one, and then he also did like Renew Your Vows, which is really, really good. But it was really Nick Spencer and Ryan Ottley when they hopped on the book. That's when people were like, and this was probably, I think, 2019, and this was when I really started to start reading all the comics. I picked up the first trade of Nick Spencer's run because the cover was cool, and I read it, and then I was like, wait, I need to read what happened before. And then I just kept doing that until I was like, well, I might as well just start at the first one. And then I read the whole thing. So it's like, so then I really got to understand why people were so excited about it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, when did One More Day happen? I think, you know, maybe it was like 10 years before that. It's like 2009, I think. So like since 2009, that's 10 years since Nick Spencer's run, if I got my math right.
If he started in 2019, yeah, it would be 10 years.
Yeah, if I've got the years right, I think that's what's going on. But like, and at the end of it, Peter's holding a ring, and he's like, maybe one day or some shit, you know, something like that. And everyone's like, whoa, they're gonna undo One More Day. But obviously they didn't do that. And then of course Zeb Wells hopped on after.
Oh,
and we know how that went. But
dearie me.
I don't even want to get.
And
I'm sure I'll mention it later. But
run with Kelly isn't that good. I think issue 2 or 3 has him kissing his own kid. Technically, I think I saw something online.
Oh, I saw that. I think now to clarify to anybody, I have not read it. I probably will. Because I think the art in issue 3 is really good. I think the Hobgoblin's in it. He's got wings. He's flying for some reason. They fly now. But it looked really good, and I'm like, I might as well just read it and just see what's up. Like, maybe, I think I'm not really too familiar with Joe Kelly's work. I haven't really read much of anything else he's done. But like, I think it's got potential to be, it's got to be better than what Zeb did.
Oh yeah, has to be.
Because I just did not care for anything in that book. I think people trash on John Romita Jr.'s art, but you know what, honestly, can I just say, okay, I gotta censor myself. I was gonna say, I'm a John Romita fan. I love John Romita Sr. I love John Romita Jr. It's not his best work, but it's still pretty good for the most part. I think he's done a couple misses, but he's done more hits than he's done misses. So I think the stuff with Tombstone was okay. I thought like it was like, it looked cool, I guess, but well, we didn't need it.
Yeah.
But kind of forgot where I was going with this, but
yeah. Essentially, what you're saying is kind of like the progression of Spidey is really downhill, and I think it covers more Marvel characters in a way more than DC, because obviously we see DC thriving with the comic books. Superman doing well, Batman's doing well, Green Lantern's doing well, Wonder Woman, like I don't know what they're doing with Wonder Woman. And then, but we know like Flash is going good. I know Green Arrow is good. Like they're really thriving. These characters are really progressing, while Marvel isn't. Obviously, we've explained Spidey isn't really going anywhere. Daredevil isn't really going anywhere.
Yeah.
Who's even the current Avengers run? I know X-Men has been extremely boring so far.
Really? Even X-Men too?
Yeah, I think X-Men, what I've heard, I started reading Uncanny, and it's taken forever. We know Ultimate's been good. We know everything from Ultimate's good. We know Ultimate Spidey's good.
Everything from Ultimate's been good, yeah.
Panther's good. I'm really enjoying Wolverine so far. The Ultimates is
that... Have they revealed... I haven't read Wolverine. Have they revealed who... Is it Logan?
Yeah, it's Logan. It
is? Okay. Yeah, because I know he's the Winter Soldier in it, isn't he?
Yeah, so it's Logan.
Okay, good. Yeah.
But we know everything Ultimates is good. And it's funny enough to say the best one going right now for Marvel, besides Ultimate, would be Incredible Hulk, which is funny because that is written by a DC writer, Philip Kennedy Johnson, who did the War World saga with Action Comics. So you could just tell the difference between writers when you have a DC writer who actually cares and puts attention into what they're doing. And Wolverine's been good. Wolverine's been really fun so far. Nothing crazy, but yeah, I just feel like a lot of progression. While when we go back to the era of the 60s and 70s, and even like for Superman would be the same, Batman's the same, and then especially like because that was Marvel's era. I think DC dominated it for the 30s, 40s, and 50s. I think once Stan Lee started doing Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, X-Men, all that, that's when it became Marvel's era. Like 60s, 70s, era. 80s, and then 90s, kind of like late 80s, DC brought it back up with Death of Superman and Batman with Dark the Bane story. But yeah, that was Marvel's dominant era, and I think what I really enjoy about the older comics is you see a progression of character. I think Spidey being a great example. You see him getting older. He ends up marrying MJ. Like, he starts holding a proper job. I think X-Men, you see them slowly start... Because X-Men has suffered the same thing as well in terms of, like, they're starting to be welcomed into society. Oh, now we hate mutants. Oh, we love mutants. We hate them. We love them. We hate them. We love them. We hate them.
Yeah, back and forth.
And Hickman did a great job. We love Hickman on the channel. Hickman did a great job of all the Kuroka stuff by just putting him on an island, like just shoving them there. Like, look, they're not welcome to society. Let's just give them their own country. Like, that's literally what he did. Just give them their own country, let them live a life, let them save the world. And that went on for years, which was great X-Men stuff. Peak X-Men is up there with Claremont, and I really like the Jim Lee stuff in the 90s. It's a bit controversial, but I really enjoy the Jim Lee stuff in the 90s.
Why is that controversial?
I just think some of the decisions they made with it, I think especially Wolverine's bone claws, people weren't huge on.
Yeah.
And I just think, yeah, some of the decisions, and that's when Rob Liefeld was putting patches on everyone. And it was just kind of like they weren't too sure what they wanted to do with X-Men, and it was there's some really whack comics in there.
Yeah, that's just classic 90s though. You know, that was with everything at the time. Everything with pouches and big explosions and robots.
I'm surprised Superman didn't end up with 27 pouches on his suit or something like that. Surprised. Funny enough, I will say, fun fact, Wolverine was the best-selling X-Men comic out of the 90s, which is the GOAT for real. But so he was
as he should.
Yeah, I mean, it's why he's the most popular X-Men character. But I think, yeah, just the real progression of character. I think another really good example was Daredevil during especially Frank Miller's run on the character.
Yeah,
that is one of the best run comic books. I highly suggest everybody go read it. It's genuinely some of the best comics you can read. I sent Cooper a TikTok the other day, which I'll hand it over to him in a second, about a guy. He said, I read Born Again. He goes, I just hate 80s comics. There's too many words.
It's funny to say that about, and you know, I've read Born Again, and I don't think you can have some problems with that comic, sure, but whatever. But too many words is not one of them. I feel like too many words you're looking at, and you know, I'm a big Wonder Woman fan. Like, I've read a lot of Wonder Woman. I have so much stuff, and those comics got some text in them. I'll tell you right now, dude.
Especially the George Perez. Yeah, I was gonna say George Perez.
He loves to write. So if you're trying to get into Wonder Woman, people will say, "Oh, read George Perez," but you know, if you don't like reading, don't read the comic book. You are reading a novel. You are reading a novel.
It's like reading Lord of the Rings at that point.
I've sat down. I own the omnibus, but I've sat down to read it, like on DC Infinite, on whatever it was, like maybe 3 times, and I've gone halfway through the first issue, and then I was just like, "Oh, my brain's shutting off now." Like, I know it's good, and I'll read it all at some point. I mean, I bought the omnibus, so I know I'll read it. And that was 80s as well. So the problem wasn't just a Silver Age, Bronze Age, whatever. It was way up until the 90s still. And I mean, you still have comics today that have too much text in them, but it's very far and few between, I feel. A lot of comics, you can see a page in a comic book today that has no text in it at all. It would just be a full page of artwork and maybe like 2 sound effects. But like, you're not gonna get a whole text dump unless you actually need it for some reason. But you know, you go into an older comic, you go into a Spidey comic, and he's fighting a random guy, and he'll be like, and he'll thwip them, and he'll be like, oh, thank God I made these web shooters, you know what I mean? And I can thwip this guy in the face, otherwise I'd be toast. It's like, you could just skip that and you'd still get the story. But I feel like, and a lot of people do skip it, and since I've already read it, you know, I'll admit that I do skip some of the filler words. I feel like
I do, especially, yeah.
But I feel like since I've already read it all the way once, I feel like I've earned the right to skip it over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, easily.
So,
it's funny you say that with Superman. I feel the same, because with Silver Age Superman, it will be like Superman flying over the Fortress of Solitude uses his X-ray vision to scan the area, and then Superman will literally say, I might need to use my X-ray vision here to scan the area. I'm like, bro, they've just put the same thing twice. So you're wasting time reading two to the same text.
It's like when you read a comic strip, like in the paper. I don't think they even do those anymore.
I think Garfield's still in the newspaper.
I checked the other day, and I used to read they used to have the Phantom.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he's not there anymore. He's not there anymore. But you'd read a comic strip, and I'm pretty sure there's like some type of Spider-Man joke comic about comic strips. And I think it's like in a Spider-Verse thing, and there's one Spidey, and he's in a comic strip, and the villain just gives up because it takes so long, because they just repeat everything over and over again, because like they assume you haven't read the one before, so they have to quickly explain what just happened. Like, I think it was Peter and MJ like at a picnic, and then one of the villains shows up, and he's like, Spider-Man, I'm here to kill you. And then the next panel, like, you know, the week later, is Mary Jane and Peter. They're standing up, and the villain's like, Peter, I'm here to kill you. And he's like, oh no. And then it's like, you know, you have to read the next newspaper, and it's like, Peter, I'm here to kill you. And he's like, oh no, I better change into Spidey. And you have to read like 5 newspapers just to get one page. And I guess it's kind of a charm in it. You know what I mean? Like,
I think so. I think there's a great charm in it.
That's what people don't understand when you go to read an older comic and you go, oh, it's too many words. Oh, I don't know what Huckleberry means. I don't know what Pussy Willow means. Like, that was I was reading, I think it was John Romita, and they have so much 60s slang.
Oh,
and I was
yeah,
like, what the hell is a Pussy Willow? I'm like, you can't say that today. It's a flower. It's a flower. That's what it is. It's a flower.
Yeah.
Aunt May says that about Peter's bike. And I'm like, so there's a lot of words that you're just not going to understand. And someone's probably looking at me like right now, like, you're an idiot. How do I not know that?
There's always going to be one guy. You don't know what that is, bro?
I've never seen that goddamn flower in my
life.
life.
Not a real Spider-Man fan? Burn your costume.
But there's a lot of stuff to get over. There's dated stuff. There's, you know, kind of, maybe, I won't say bad art, I'll just say different art, old art. And especially if you look at early Ditko compared to Ditko when he left, it's so different. It's only like 37, 38 issues, but like he has so much progression in those couple years that like he got so good at the end of it, so good. But there's a lot of hurdles to jump over, but I feel like if you just stick to it and you really try, you'll get some of the best stories you've ever read. And the charm to it, what we were talking about originally, the charm to it is the over-explaining. It is, you know, the weird anatomy. It is like at some points, Peter will just fight a random mad scientist with robots, and it's like they never show up again. But it's like they don't really do that anymore. That's where the charm comes from. All these random things that just happen, and you just don't get that anymore.
No, I think I definitely, I mean, I think Superman, that happens all the time. Like, he's always fighting some giant robot, some giant lizard, some mad scientist with kryptonite, and then later on they did Brainiac and Bizarro and Metallo and those type of characters. But yeah, you're right. There's a certain charm to it, and I think back then, I think comics was a really good way for writers to get their political point across. And I know people are like, I don't want politics in my comic, and it's kind of
superheroes are political, guys.
Right.
Hate to break it to you.
Yeah.
Superheroes are political. You cannot have one without the other.
Do not tell these people why Superman's a character. Like, because they're going to explode. Because the whole point of Superman was a character during the Great Depression. That was a big political movement at the time about what the America as a country should do. And Superman was a character that gave him hope. And also Jerry Schuster and Joe Schuster and Jerry Siegel were Jewish immigrants. You know, so they wanted a character that was an immigrant to another planet, but showed that they could do a good thing and that they can be welcomed. So that's another big thing, and that was just before the Second World War. So Superman was a really big character about immigration and being an immigrant. But I think for 60s and 70s, I think again we'll go back to that era of Marvel. I think the X-Men being my favorite about uniting as a minority. Obviously, back in that era, there was a lot of
huge topic
racism
back then. Yeah,
and stuff like that.
Segregation, all that. Yeah.
Yeah, so Stan Lee wrote the X-Men as a way for people to feel included when you're different. And the other one was for teenagers going through a certain time in their life, puberty. And it was just, back then it was looked as a scary time. Now it's an everyday thing, but it was looked as a bit of a scary time for kids. You know, they're changing, and so for X-Men, they felt welcomed and united by being different. It was a good thing to be different. You can still do some good while being different. My favorite character from that era is Luke Cage. So the first
Power Man,
you know. The first character of color was Black Panther, which we know he fought the Fantastic Four and he beat the Fantastic Four, which was a huge moment in comics. You know, this one guy beat the entirety of the Fantastic Four. Are you kidding me? You know? But kids, you see a lot of writers of color now that were like, this was cool, but I wasn't an African king at the time. I wasn't the ruler. So when Luke Cage came along and it was just a simple working man from Harlem, protecting his neighborhood against, you know, people that were against people, a minority and things like that, it was really inspiring. And I think those stories are gone, unfortunately. I think there's still politics huge in comic books now. I feel like they're a bit more stronger than ever, but I just feel like the message isn't exactly there than what it was back then.
Yeah. Even now, I'm trying to think of the last time something like crazy political happened in a comic in the last maybe 5 years.
Well, I know the big one was when John came out as bisexual.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And the headlines was Superman's gay, and they were like Clark Kent's gay.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, they're like Superman's gay, and they were like, and it was like, Clark Kent should be Lois Lane. Why is he left Lois Lane?
It was funny when that was coming out because clearly everybody that commented on that situation had no idea what they were talking about and had literally never read a comic in their entire life.
Bro, I was fighting for my life in those comment sections.
I pity you, brother. That would have been tough. That would have been a tough time for you, bro. But yeah, like none of those people, like they immediately saw the title and just started hating. They didn't even bother to check the article about what even it, you know, I mean, they didn't even know Superman had a son. So
yeah, I know.
Like, you don't have I mean, everyone has the right to an opinion, but your opinion you have to know what you're talking about, I believe, before you can have a based opinion.
Yeah, it was the same thing when Tim Drake came out as bisexual as well. People were like,
when was that? That was
a while ago. I think still modern. I think that was still a modern thing. But I think people were still like, Robin shouldn't be gay. Because again, it was like Robin, people were like, oh, Dick Grayson or Jason Todd. But I don't want to say it but I just feel like political, I think it's so cool to have real life politics in comics. It makes us understand them better. It makes us feel better about the world that we live in. I think especially for characters like Superman, being an immigrant, just makes me feel a lot more hope for the world, that there are really good people out there. I just feel like the political stuff in comics now doesn't hit the same because it's not written to make an impact. It's just written to make a headline, to make a cheap headline, to make a shock factor moment, when really it's like, I feel like that's a spit in the face of what you're talking about. I think, for example, if you make, like, John Kent being bi makes a lot of sense if you actually read the comic. It makes a lot of sense. But I feel like when you just make him bi just to get a headline, I feel like that's a spit in the face to the LGBTQ community. But when you write a character that goes through the struggles of coming out and maintaining a relationship in society where that is very much frowned upon, or people that come out as non-binary or pansexual or whatever, I think when you write it just for that shock factor, I feel like you're disrespecting the people that struggle with that today. That unfortunately people have taken their lives over.
Exactly. It's not authentic. It's not authentic
Yeah,
to the
it's not
character
a-
or to
yeah.
the people reading it or even the people
Yeah.
writing it. It's, um, I mean, I can't. There's not too much Marvel related stuff that's happened. That's been a huge DC thing. I mean, you had DC
Yeah.
Pride.
Yeah, that's
I
a big
don't-
thing every year, which is
Um,
always fun to read.
I know. I'm struggling to think if Marvel's done anything similar to that.
I know.
If they have, it hasn't been on the same scale as DC Pride.
No, I'm trying to think. I know the big one was years ago. Was when Hulkling and Wanda's son got married. Can't remember the character's name. It was the new Avengers stuff when they did with Iron Patriot and all that, and they
Yeah.
came out as gay and they were getting married. That was a great one. Was Miles Morales when that was announced that the new Ultimate Spider-Man after the major hit of Bendis' original run on Ultimate Spider-Man ended,
Yeah.
and they were bringing it back, and they were like, he's Dominican Republican and he's black and he's Spider-Man. People were like, Spider-Man isn't black. He shouldn't, because again, people were like, well, they're making Peter Parker black. It's like, well, no, this is a completely different version of Spidey.
Yeah. It's interesting. There's a lot of things to criticize Miles about, especially when he just made his debut in Ultimate. Obviously, I've read. I don't think there's a Spidey fan who hasn't read Ultimate. You know what I mean? And you have guys who've read it many times, like myself.
Yeah.
The big drop off is when Miles came out. It was a huge thing. You know, he's a black kid. He's the mainline Spider-Man now. It was a big statement, but the writing, and I enjoy it. I think for the most part it's fine, but I feel like you have the movies now. You have the Spider-Verse movies, and they're so good. And Miles is a completely different character in those movies, because when he came out in Ultimate Comics, like his debut, he was literally just Peter Parker, except he looked different. Like he had the same personality. Like he was just a science nerd. Like it was just the same thing again, and people were getting bored. And then you have it later, and then look at the movies. He's all about art and music, and like these things Peter has never really been interested in. Like they really make him his own character. I don't think the Ultimate Comics are bad, but like they just didn't really bring anything new once Miles came out. And especially the stuff with his uncle. Have you read Ultimate Miles?
Yeah, I read it when it came out. I think the only.
Oh, really? Wow.
I think it's in the first arc with Electro. Is that the first arc that he has with Electro? I think, and Nick Fury talks to him, and Nick Fury talks about there's a multiverse. I think the first arc's with Electro. I think I might be right on that comic.
Could be right. I mean, I haven't read it in
I remember Miles and Electro
2 or 3
fighting.
years. I remember obviously he wears that suit, and then he gets like the whole thing with Shield, and he gets the real suit, and then he gets the web shooters, and then he's like, oh wow, I'm Spider-Man now. And that's fine. I think that's fine. But the stuff with his uncle is terrible. In the movies, when Aaron dies, spoiler. But when Aaron dies, spoiler for how old is that movie? Like 6 years now?
Yeah.
But when Aaron dies, he hesitated. When he knew it was Miles, he hesitated. He stopped because he loved that kid. That's his family. But in the Ultimate Comics, I think like Aaron is straight up trying to almost slipped out there. He's straight up trying to kill this kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like he does not give a crap. He's just trying to kill this kid. He knows he's trying to get him to steal for him. He's trying to get him to join him. And Miles is like, no, I don't want to do that. And Aaron's like, well, then we're fighting. And they have this huge fight. And I believe that's when Aaron died. I think they have 2 fights.
Yeah.
I don't know. My memory's groggy. It's been probably about 3-4 years since I've read it, but it's just not very good. It's fine. like read it. I think if you're a Miles fan, definitely read it. Like there's some good moments in there. The art's really good. But I just think they didn't really know what they were doing. They just wanted to keep writing the comic after he died. And I think like you have a really great moment in those comics at Peter's funeral, because obviously everyone knows who he is, and Cap shows up and Aunt May slaps Captain
Oh
America in the
yeah,
face.
yeah, that stuff. Yeah,
And like I forgot about all that because when I was reading it and he dies in issue 160 something, and then it literally just stops there. So you have to read like the continuation if you want to get his funeral and all that.
yeah,
So you kind of have to read the Miles stuff if you want to see what happens after his death. So read it anyway, but just don't expect anything close to how good he is now. Like he's had so much improvement now.
yeah. That could bring me up onto the next topic about comics, modern comics syncing with movies.
Okay,
I think a good example is Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man. They are completely different characters during the Bronze and Silver Age of comics. I think, and Thor as well. I think Iron Man, Demon in a Bottle, one of the greatest comic arcs I think of all time. I think Roger Stern wrote Captain America. I think I'm correct on saying that. I know Dan Jurgens, my boy Dan Jurgens, wrote Captain America. The GOAT Mark Waid wrote a bit of Captain America, but it's such a different character to what Chris Evans portrayed. And it's funny, hot take is I think Chris Evans' Captain America is better than the comics. Like I think Chris Evans' version of Captain America, I think it's written better than any of the comics that I've read of Cap anyway.
Is there for Captain America like a definitive version of his character in the comics, like that one writer? Because I haven't really read any Captain America at all.
It would be Ed Brubaker's run.
Brubaker. Yeah. Is that when he was doing? He wrote the Winter Soldier, right?
The Winter Soldier stuff, and that's when during Civil War Sharon shot him. You know when he gets arrested, and Sharon. Spoiler alert: Sharon Carter shoots Steve Rogers. She gets brainwashed and shoots him. It's really stupid. Because it's really just after the Civil War, and it's like, what was the whole point of that? For Steve just gets shot at the end of it. Mark Waid's run, I think, is really good. I think there's a really good arc with Mephisto and how Captain America is the living embodiment of the American dream. That's a really cool arc. But I think Chris Evans' portrayal of Cap is so much better. I think just because it takes that optimistic, noble character that we love about Cap, but makes him real in a way. Do you know what I mean? Like, he kills people. You're not telling me he throws that shield 200 miles an hour and like what? He gets unconscious
right into a guy's dome and knocks him into a brick wall, and the brick wall like starts to crack.
Yeah, like
if that wall's cracking, his head's cracking too.
Yeah, like dude, he's killing people, and I think to deal with to have a Captain America that does do that, but it's like, look, we're not proud of what we do, but we have to do it for the sake of freedom, you know. And I like one of my favorite lines in Cap is in Winter Soldier. Probably my favorite Captain America line is in Winter Soldier when he's on the loudspeaker and he goes, "The price of freedom is high. That's a price I'm willing to pay." It means he's really he's really willing to go out of his way to make sure that people do not die. And so people, you can make the comparison, but isn't that just like the Punisher or like Wolverine or something? It's like, well, no, because he knows what he does. He's not proud of what he does, but he's taking on that response. He's taking on that action, and he's willing to move on from it, and it's for the sake of better. I think when in the comic books in that era, he's just Superman. He's just straight up Superman. And I feel like it's just boring. Like, it's like, you read it, you're like, I'm just going to go read Superman. Like, what's the point? Like, Superman, I think, is the same character, but just way cooler, powers, flying, whatever.
Yeah. Do you think, with Captain America and like Iron Man kills too, of course. And then you have a character like you just mentioned, the Punisher or Wolverine who kill. Do you think that there's a lot of, I don't know how to word this right, but the difference between Punisher killing and Captain America killing?
There is a difference, yeah.
Like a difference in how they view it, and also how like the reader views it as well, and how it's portrayed.
I think Frank's version of killing is no different to Bullseye. It's just Frank aims it in the direction of bad guys. Bullseye just aims it in the direction of like whoever's in front of him. They both love to kill. Like they both love killing. Frank's just in his mind. He's like, I'm doing the right thing here by killing drug dealers, killing mafia guys, drug traffickers.
But he has to kill. He has to kill.
He has to kill. Yeah, while Bullseye, he's like, oh, this random pedestrian, I'm just gonna launch a knife in his back of his head. You know, like
launch
Bullseye,
an eight ball into the back of the skull and crack it open.
Yeah, like Bullseye will just kill whoever's in front of him. Frank will kill anyone, but it's like he's just able to aim it in a direction because he shares a lot of similarities with Bullseye. Like he just loves killing. Wolverine, I'm not going to get started on Wolverine because this whole episode will be about Wolverine's killing rule, but he does have a no killing rule. He just sucks at it.
He just is terrible at keeping that rule.
Because
that's like his thing. He's known for killing people.
I know, and then there's multiple issues where he's like, I don't kill people. I refuse to kill someone, and then he'll just pop the claws in the back of someone's cranium, and it's like, okay, all right.
A splash page of him killing 12 people in like 1 minute. And he's just running around chopping people's heads off.
Yeah, I know. So there's that side of Wolverine, which I think makes him a great character, but that can be for another video. But I think with Captain America, like he doesn't. Well, it's no different to a soldier. Like I assume a soldier doesn't like killing people, but he had or a police officer. I'm sure a police officer doesn't like killing someone, but for the sake of the safety of everybody else, he has to do it. If this person's in front of him has killed 3 people and he's about to kill another 10, the police officer has to take action on that. Yeah. Cap's the same with that.
That's what I was just about to say. Like sometimes there quite literally is no other option. And I know I'm literally just a Spider-Man and he will stop at nothing to figure out the other way. And I feel like that's the same with Batman. Like they will not stop. They'd rather themselves die than not even try to at least find out the other option besides killing somebody. You know what I mean? But I feel like you get some of these stories like you just go, what is the other option besides just killing the person? Like when you get to these Punisher comics and
especially Punisher Max,
like some of the people in it are beyond evil. Like you will not see anybody that evil in a Spider-Man comic ever. And it's just what the writers do, because like you're not going to have human trafficking or like, you know, what all the other things they have in Punisher Max and all the other like Max comics and Punisher comics. Like Spider-Man doesn't deal with those things because like the only option kind of is killing them. You know what I mean? So don't. Yeah. It's like someone brought it up a while ago that like when Zack Snyder's Batman and he's killing people and Zack Snyder was like, oh, he has no choice. It's like, well, you don't write Batman to be in a situation where there is no choice. Batman's always in a situation where there is another choice and he's always right about it. Like he always risks his life picking to save everybody, and it ends up sometimes it's not the right choice, sometimes he picks wrong, but for the most part Batman finds another way out of the problem without having to kill the person, and that's what makes him Batman. That's what makes Spider-Man. He figures out the other way to save everybody, and of course it doesn't always work out. Like you can't literally save everybody, but there's just so much in there with like the killing rule and stuff like that. And I feel like we could probably do a whole video on the killing rule.
I think so too. I feel
like there's so much there to unpack, and it's such a debated topic online. Like
especially with Batman. Or I don't want to go into it. But I know Batman is a very strong one about killing, which I'll tackle it here with older comics. I think that's tackled better in older comics than it is now.
Interesting.
I think the greatest example was Frank Miller's Daredevil again, when Bullseye. So I'll set up the scenario. Bullseye breaks out of prison. He finds his way in New York. He's in Times Square, and he sees everybody's in a Daredevil costume. Every single person. But in our image, like, oh, they're just normal people in Times Square. But to him, everybody's in a Daredevil costume. There's a little kid. He's about 8. He's in a Daredevil costume. There's a big fat guy. He's in a Daredevil costume. So Bullseye kills everyone in Times Square. Because he's like, Daredevil's everywhere. I need to kill I need to kill him. I need to kill Daredevil.
Yeah.
So he starts killing everybody in Times Square. Matt Murdock finds out that that there's a killing spree in Times Square and that it's Bullseye. So Matt dons the costume, goes to Times Square. They have an amazing fight on a rooftop. Bullseye falls down onto a train track, and Matt goes down and he's looking at him, and it's such a great few pages of Matt going, "I'm leaving him there." So Matt walks away. No, I can't let him to die. I can't. There has to be a chance for him. But he's killed so many people, so he walks away again. So he's going back and forth.
Yeah.
Like and he ends up saving him, putting him in hospital, saving his life.
Yeah.
Because he's conflicted with Daredevil, this angry boy at New York, but he also has to upstand the law as Matt Murdock for being a literal lawyer, for real. And I think that those kind of topics in the older comics, I think especially like the 80s and 90s, are much better. I think there's a really good example for Superman where it's actually a crazy reference, because they reference Action Comics issue 1, where Superman finds an abusive woman's body, right, a dead body, and and he's like, "Oh my god, how did I not know about this? Like, I'm Superman, I can see and hear everything. How did I not know about this?" He goes back to the Daily Planet, and they're like, "Oh, this woman was beaten severely in her relationship. They lived in this building," and he's like, "Oh my god, that's 3 floors down from where I live," because Clark Kent lived in an apartment. For people that don't know, Clark Kent lived in an apartment in Metropolis, and he's like, "This was happening all around me, and I didn't know." And then so it's really cool. Is he ends up going to the funeral of the lady, and he grabs the guy by the husband by the shirt and puts him in the sky, and he's like, "Why did you do that?" You know, like, and he's like ripping him, and there's a thought bubble. He's like, "I want to kill him. Like, I actually want to." Thought bubble. Thought bubble. But there's a thought bubble, and he's like, "I want to kill him. Like, I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna drop him, and he's gonna break every bone in his body." And he looks down, and on one side of the casket is the husband's family, his mom, his sister, and they were like, "Please don't kill him. He can change. He can do better." On the other side is the wife's family, and they're like, "Drop him, Superman. Kill him. He took my daughter's life. Kill him. Kill him."
Yeah.
And so he's like conflicted. So he puts him gently down on the ground and flies off. And I think it's those things like that that I really love Superman in, is because it puts him in a real situation. The guy ends up wanting to kill himself. Superman stops him, and the guy's like, "I need help." And Superman's like, "That's the best thing I've heard all day." And so Superman drops him at therapy, and the guy ends up getting better. And I love those comic books of Superman, is because it puts him in a real life situation. Like, those things actually happen. You know, I love the sci-fi battles and the Krypton battles and all those things, but I like it more when Superman's being a human being and having human stories. And I feel like with current modern Superman, again, I could do a 5-hour video about this, about how the whole Starman Hope Corps thing, right? Well, it's a nice celebration of the character. Oh, excuse me. It's a nice celebration of the character. It's not what defines him. And I just feel like that's missing from Superman. I'm hoping James Gunn, please save us. Please save us. Please teach people what Superman really is. But I just feel like it's the, and like, but I think it happens to Batman all the time. Batman's always putting it, like, he is put in the Zack Snyder situations, but what makes him better is that he's like, no, this person can be saved. Like, I can save this person. Yeah. Like, every single time he fights Joker, everyone's like, kill him. Any comic book fan would be like, yeah, that's justified. But he's like, no, I have to save him. And I think modern comics, I feel like they're too scared to do those type of stories. While in the 80s, it was like, we need to transition them to be more modern, and kind of these characters do feel real emotions and do go through real things.
I mean, to wrap it back around to the Batman stuff, and the Zack Snyder comment, I think it was in an interview when he said, like, they have this god, Batman, and he has one rule.
I will say quickly I will
Yeah.
say you could not ask for a worse person to describe comic books than Zack Snyder. Like you could have gotten anybody else to describe comic books, and you got Zack Snyder.
I mean, he did 300, right? That was good.
He just, and
But
I enjoy Man of Steel, but
that is a good. I feel like good Zack Snyder movie. Perfect Zack
Yeah.
Snyder movie. I don't like Watchmen. That might be controversial. I think visually it looked pretty good, but I feel like it lost the meaning of the comic at some point. But that's another story completely.
yeah,
But the Zack Snyder thing, he people saw Batman as his god, or at least that's what he thinks. And this god has one rule, that he won't kill people. So he's like, well, what happens when you put this god in a situation where the only thing he can do is kill? And it's like, I don't know if you've read a Batman comic, but it's like that's kind of like every situation he gets into is
yeah,
like, do I kill this person and finally stop them forever, or do I trust in the system, trust in justice, and trust in standing up for something different that's not murder, and be a real hero? And Batman always picks, obviously, being a hero. And I feel like you do get that with Spidey as well. I feel like that's kind of Batman's thing. Like if you talk about no killing, people think of Batman. Even though
Yeah.
Spider-Man probably has the most similar standard for no killing. Like Spider-Man would literally rather kill himself than kill another person, even though he has killed one person, accidentally. I mean, even when Gwen Stacy died in the comics, and you had the fight with Norman, and Peter's beating the crap out of this guy, and he's like, I'm just gonna do it, I'm just gonna kill him. And then he stops himself. He's like, no, this is not who I am. I'm not a killer. He's like, yeah, he killed my girlfriend, but I'm not a killer as well. And he stops, and obviously Norman accidentally kills himself anyway, so luckily he didn't kill him. But when Norman's dead, he looks at the body and he's like, I don't feel any better. He's like, I just feel more alone. And so I feel like that's such a powerful thing. Like Batman, and I don't think, I'm not one of those people that say Batman needs Joker, and I feel like Joker needs Batman, but I don't think Batman needs Joker. Like Batman is fine without Joker. I feel like honestly Joker should have died 10 years ago. Is that controversial?
I think
Is that a hot take?
Yeah, I think Joker, great villain, very overdone.
I feel like there's not much to tell about him anymore. You could, I would love it if this Red Hood just finally killed him, got revenge. Like, you know, give my boy some credit over there. Like, just let him finally kill the real Joker this time, not one of three. You know what I mean? Like, have him just kill Joker finally. But no, Joker's the moneymaker. I mean, his movies make $1 billion. They're not gonna kill him. But I feel like maybe on the topic of that, the tone of Joker and what he's done, obviously the killing joke, and the sexual assault of Barbara, and also of Gordon as well. I mean, like, you strip a guy naked and having, that's sexual assault as well. So he did both of that to these characters, and I don't feel like you really get that these days, like something so adult as sexual assault, because there's a lot of things in older comics that they've done, a lot of controversial things, but a lot of important things, I feel. And did you have, like, you know, your sexual assaults as well and stuff like that, like in The Killing Joke? And then you have, I mean, the biggest, I feel like maybe is the biggest one, Speedy, of course, and heroin, when he started shooting up heroin.
Yeah.
I feel like they would never do Robin doing that now, you know what I mean? Or any other side character doing something. It's not like it's smoking weed, like that's legal in most places now. So it's like something as insane as one of the most hardcore drugs on the planet. I just don't feel like they do that now. Like, I feel like, you know what I mean?
I feel like the problem is with that newer comics is they just have to meet what the movies are putting out. You know,
yeah,
it's like,
there's a lot of synergy going on, not just story wise, but visually as well.
Yeah, I think an example is Nebula from Guardians. Like when you see her most prominent stories in the Infinity Gauntlet story, dude, they're two completely different characters when you look at Nebula in the movies than what she is in the comics. And like, while something it works better than others, I think Winter Soldier is one. I think Winter Soldier getting more of a main character vibe is great. I think that's cool because Winter Soldier is a really cool character. I think what annoys me is when with the popular characters like Spidey I think Spidey more important. I feel like Wolverine as well.
Yeah.
It's downgraded because it's like the Raimi movie's fantastic. Peter's relatable because, you know, he's struggling to do things and he can't hold the MJ relationship and all that stuff. But it's like, but that's not because of modern comics. That's because of Romita and Ditko and I feel like when you try and sync that up, synergize that up with modern Spidey, you're kind of just throwing everything that Romita and Ditko and all those guys in the bin because there's no progression there. And I feel like I will say in Wolverine, I feel like what my favorite Wolverine run of all time, the Greg Rucka run, it's so good because Wolverine does kill, but he hates himself for it because Wolverine kills in a way where he just hates to see violence against innocents so much that he can't help himself but just to kill them. It's not like a Punisher thing where he's like, I need to kill, I love killing. He's more of like, I can't help myself, but I'm trying my best to not kill. And I feel like now with the modern movies, Logan's my favorite comic book movie of all time. I love that movie so much. It escalates the horrible life that Logan has had and how much trauma it's gone through, but for him to keep being a hero, all that stuff. But the fact that he just loves killing people and that he just can't live without violence and that he needs to kill all the time, I'm like, you're downgrading him because you're not progressing him as a character. You're just keeping him at a stalemate for so long, and it's so frustrating. And like I said with Cap, I think MCU Cap's better. I think, again, another video that I could go on for hours is the mistreatment of Thor, man. Oh my god. I cannot stand what they've done to my boy. It's just horrible. Just like, and it's so bad now that like, they're not really, like, dude, they're killing Thor in the next 3 issues. They're killing it. Like that, yeah, they're straight up killing him. I think in issue 22, 23, they're killing him. It's just because Taika, by dumb fuck, sorry for the language, but I hate Taika so much. Just like, he's written Thor to be like this loot, like I was thinking about it today with Ragnarok. When you look at Ragnarok Thor, and you're like, he gets his head shaved and he's like got the beard and that. It's like, bro, that's just Chris Hemsworth. That's not even Thor anymore.
He lost all his aura.
Yeah, I'm like, that's just.
So I will say he gained some, but he lost more of it. Yeah,
like the God of Hammers stuff is so cool in that movie. Like, what are you, Thor, the God of Hammers? No, you're God of Thunder. But then, like, but that's what I mean. Why synergy with movies can be horrible, because now they don't know how to write Thor, and it's the same with the Hulk as well. They just don't know how to write. I mean, Philip Kennedy Johnson is doing God's work at the moment with Hulk, but Donny Cates did a horrible job. Even though Ryan Oatley was on art, and the art was fantastic, Donny Cates did a horrible job, and Al Ewing, my favorite Marvel run of all time, Immortal Hulk, was really good. But because the Russo brothers don't know what to do and how to write a movie, example Electric State, and other directors don't know how to write Hulk, Marvel are like, well, he's not a profitable character anymore. And it's like, dude, do you not realize that this guy was like the second biggest character in comics behind Spidey during the 60s and 70s? Like, Hulk was the man. Like, Hulk was bigger.
People don't realize that these days. Like, he hasn't had a solo movie
since Edward Norton, since 2008.
And that's a long time ago.
Yeah, and you got to think the pedestal this guy was on during the 60s and 70s. I mean, he was bigger than Superman and Batman at most points. You know, it was him and Spidey dominating. Like what you say with Spidey, like, they were putting Spider-Man and Hulk. They were introducing other characters through Spider-Man and Hulk because they were the ones that were selling. Yeah. They were the biggest characters. I mean, Wolverine's first appearance was in Hulk. Rocket Raccoon's first appearance was in Hulk. You know, like, these huge characters, because Hulk sells. Spider-Man sells. And I think Marvel have just completely forgotten that, which is so upsetting.
I think it's not a coincidence that this the One More Day, like post One More Day era, and Spider-Man 3. I think Spider-Man 3 is a good movie. I think it has its
problems. The Raimi Spider-Man 3?
Yeah, the Raimi Spider-Man 3, like, it has its problems. No one's disagreeing with that. Like that's why we love it though. That's why it's the most memed one of the trilogy, because it's got its problems. But I don't think it's a coincidence that you have this kind of weird era. Like a lot of people don't like the Amazing Spider-Man films. I love the first one. I think the second one's okay. It's definitely not really a good movie, but I think it's got a lot of charm to it and it's got a lot of good stuff in it that keeps me coming back to watch it. But I think the first one is probably my favorite Spider-Man movie of all time, just because
The first one's great. I do love the first one.
I was a similar age, so like I was a bit too young for the Raimi films. So like by the time I watched it, you know, I was 7 years old, so I didn't really relate to it very much. But you know, the Tasman movies, they didn't get the best reception, and then you had like the MCU-ification of Spider-Man from Tom Holland, and I think he's pretty perfect now. Like we'll see how it goes with Brand New Day, but you have this kind of weird shift in the movies, and you have this weird shift in the comics, all within very similar times. I mean, Spider-Man 3 came out in 2007, One More Day happened in 2009, Spider-Man 4 obviously got cancelled, and then TASM came, and it was very, people don't like the suit, oh, it's too dark, oh, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You have this synergy, and now Spider-Man, he's been in a state of, like, he's been in a frozen state since One More Day. Like, you could quite literally delete everything that's happened since then and just start, and like nothing would really change. Like nothing really has happened besides the Spider-Verse stuff and I guess Superior Spider-Man and Parker Industries, but like that stuff is so, I think it's an interesting idea, but I don't think it's good for mainline at all. I think
no.
I
mean, I enjoyed Superior myself, but I'm not a big Spidey
I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty good, but like I don't like it as what happens in like 616. I don't like it being in 616. Have it in a random world. But like the future of Spidey to me is what happens with Mayday. Like, you know, Spider Girl. I've read so much Spider Girl. She's one of my favorite characters. Peter growing up, leaving Spider-Man behind, staying with MJ, having a kid, whether it be Mayday or Annie, doesn't really matter. Obviously Mayday's better though. But that's the progression. You've lost all that in trying to keep with this. The movies are changing, they're not staying the same anymore. I mean, you had like 60 years or whatever of Spider-Man, 40 probably, and then he's been stuck for like 15 years now, and it's no coincidence that it lines up exactly with so many reboots of the movie and this trilogy. And the trilogy is very controversial, like the Tom Holland one, because he's all this tech and he's friends with Iron Man, and you know, if you've read any Spider-Man 616, he never really got along with Iron Man and never really wanted to be an Avenger, and that's kind of all this kid wants to be. But then I feel like they kind of course corrected a little bit and fixed him, but you did have a lot of synergy with that, and that's sort of more editorial synergy, I'd say. They didn't really share a lot of storyline synergy, but I'd say a lot of visual synergy as well. I mean, you had the Ultimate Comics coming out, and Iron Man had that huge bug head look. You remember the Ultimate Comics Iron Man?
Oh yeah, the suit. Yeah, the
weird. He's got like the circle eyes.
Yeah,
he looks weird, but he looks different and he looks unique, and I don't mind it at all. And then towards the end of Ultimate Spider-Man, Iron Man shows up, and he literally just looks like MCU Iron Man.
Oh,
like
does he?
It's the exact armor, like 1-to-1. Like he's lost all his source, he's lost all his originality. It's just Robert Downey Jr. And I think the suit is fine, but like you had such a unique Iron Man, and I think Iron Man was one of the only characters that was good in the Ultimate Comics. Like he was pretty chill the whole time. Cap's a bit of a dick, everyone's kind of a dick. You know, Reed's a bit of a cock. But I think Iron Man for the most part was pretty chill. I don't remember him doing anything too crazy.
I mean, I can mention one bit with the Avengers when he shows a certain video of him and Black Widow to the entire team. Besides
that, I think. Plus, I don't think that's even that crazy of a thing.
It's not surprising coming from Tony. Like I wasn't. Yeah. I was like, this is weird. It would be extremely weird if like Steve done it. You'd be like, whoa, okay. Like,
that would be weird.
But Tony, I'm like, it's weird, but it doesn't really surprise me for Tony.
Yeah. But I feel like if we looked, I feel like synergy is kind of starting to stop, kind of about now, maybe a little bit before. I mean, you have.
I mean, I would
know what
say
they
with
want.
Marvel, it's really bad now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm
Marvel.
thinking of Ultimates right now, the new
Yeah.
Ultimates. People know what they want with comics, and for some reason,
Yeah.
Marvel, I think either they know and they're just in too deep with what people don't want, and they have to keep doing it, or they don't know and they don't care. Because like Spider-Man, like Amazing Spider-Man, the mainline comic, it's not selling anywhere near where it should be. Spider-Man is probably the #1 superhero in the world right now.
Okay.
Okay. You know, it's not July yet. You know, it's not July yet. The movie's not out yet. Superman might take that throne back, but not yet. Okay, I think Spidey still has a throne.
Yeah.
If you go up and ask like a random kid, "Oh, who's your favorite superhero?" 85% of the time they'll say Spider-Man.
The other 15, what, Black Canary?
Batman, Black Canary. But you know, and I've lost my train of thought. But I feel like what I was going
Spidey
with
should be
was
doing
that,
mad numbers, like mainline.
Yes.
Spidey should be doing mad numbers.
And he's not, because they just don't know what they're doing anymore. And people are buying the Ultimates. They're buying Absolute Batman. They're buying the Absolute Universe for DC, and they're buying the Ultimates for Marvel because it's something new. It's something refreshing. It's something that's well written. It's clearly coming from a place of appreciation for these characters that we haven't really seen in such a long time, like since before probably you and I were even born. Like such a good appreciation for these characters and a good love and respect. Like they want to write these characters, they want to tell the story.
Yeah.
They have a unique vision that they want to get across. Like Jonathan Hickman is a god of writing, and I love him. He's so good.
Yeah, he's killing it right now.
He can do no wrong. He can do no wrong. He could kill my family and I would let him. He's doing exactly what he needs to be doing. They just need to get rid of the word ultimate at the start and just kind of kick off Amazing Spider-Man. Just have Hickman take over. Just have him take over everything.
The main run.
He can be the new Feige or whatever.
New Feige of Marvel Comics. Yeah, I think the synergy for like mainline stuff is really bad for Marvel Comics. I think DC are doing a really good job with their mainline stuff. I think I can easily say for Superman, it's been really the best it's really ever been since New 52. I mean, maybe you could make an argument for Rebirth. I have a soft spot for Rebirth, but really it's the best Superman stuff since Rebirth. But for Marvel, it's just like Wolverine. I think Wolverine's getting really good now. Spoiler alert, they're about to bring back his mum. Wolverine, which is going to be really interesting. So I feel like Wolverine's getting more of appreciation because of these little callbacks. They just did an arc with Romulus from the Daniel Way run, so that's another appreciation from an older Wolverine run. But I think what annoys me is like you see a lot of characters when it's like Thunderbolts. Let's look at Thunderbolts, for example. They just announced a new Avenger team with Winter Soldier leading it. Oh, I wonder where they got that idea from. You know, like, or when they did the new Captain America movie, they were like, oh, we're doing a new Hulk run, Red Hulk run with Greg Pak on it. Oh, Greg Pak wrote World War Hulk, one of the best Hulk writers of all time. Oh, wait, hang on a second. It's just going to be in line with what we've got with the movies. It's only going to last a few issues and then they'll cut it. Which is really annoying because I love that era of Marvel when the MCU was starting up, and rather than Marvel going, oh, let's just make Tony like Downey, let's push Iron Man comics. Let's try and push Tony Stark 616. So let's try and push this character and show people why we decided to make a movie on it, rather than just buying into the marketing of Iron Man 1 or 2 and just changing it to look like you said in the Ultimate, just making him look like RDJ. I do have a question to pose. It does leave on synergy. I know there has been a huge hatred for Mary Jane since the Raimi movies. Obviously, during the Romita arc, she's the lowest lane. Like, she's the lowest lane of Spider-Man. And what are your opinions on within the community how people are like, they should be with Gwen, he should be with Gwen, he should be with Black Cat, he should be with...
Yeah. I this comes from a place. Mary Jane is one of my favorite characters of all time, and anybody who's read Ditko and then read Ramita and then, you know, I think Jerry Conway's run, all the way up until they get married. The people who have read that, they understand why she's such a loved character and why she's so important to the Spider-Man lore in general. I have just one recommendation, and I told you about this last time, but it's called Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man Parallel Lives.
Oh yeah.
That one comic tells you everything you need to know about these two characters and why she is so important. She's not just, you know, I think Kirsten Dunst is too overhated at all. She's perfectly fine. Like, there was that little bit with her dating Harry and like all that, and like,
Jameson's
and she does
son.
and yeah, and that was a bit fucked up, I won't lie. Oops. But that was a bit messed up.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part it's fine. Like, anybody who's read the comics knows that she did date Harry Osborn before she dated Peter, but she kind of just had him along like a dog, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
she was just dragging him around kind of like a pet more than a boyfriend. But anybody who's read those comics knows that she's not just Spider-Man's wife or like that hot redhead girl. Like, she's extremely layered and such an in-depth character. And I see why people say this, because they don't read the comics and then they watch the Sam Raimi movies and then they watch Mark Webb movies, The Amazing Spider-Man, and you see how good Gwen is in those movies. You see two people that clearly, and they were a couple in real life, like Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone. They were a couple in real life, so you see the chemistry, and you see that, and you believe it, and you know, and then you cry when she dies, and when he's sad. Like, it's one of the saddest scenes in any Spider-Man superhero movie ever made, and it feels real. And then you watch the Sam Raimi movies, and you know, oh, she's with Harry, oh, she's with, you know, Jameson's son, and I think she's overhated, first of all, much so. I think she's perfectly fine, but especially in the first two movies, she's pretty good. But you know, they see this, and then they see Black Cat and Peter, and they're just having fun. You know, they're running along rooftops, and they have a very flirty relationship. But the things people don't understand is, in the comics, Gwen never knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man. Obviously, she finds out in Tandem 1 because Peter tells her. But in the comics, she never knew. Up until she died, she never knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man. Ever since Captain Stacy died, their relationship, and that was in like, I want to say issue 70 something, 80 something, when Captain Stacy died, their relationship kind of stopped there. And then she died like 40 issues later in 121. But their relationship was never the same after he died. He stopped going around her, he stopped talking, because in his mind, he was the reason she died. That reason, Spider-Man blamed himself, obviously, for Captain Stacy's death. That's what I'm trying to say, if I can get my words right. And he was too ashamed to see Gwen anymore. So he stopped seeing her. And imagine your boyfriend, like your dad dies, and your boyfriend just doesn't talk to you anymore.
Yeah.
Like, how messed up is that? And then she goes to Europe, and then she's like, no, I love Peter, but I keep seeing Spider-Man everywhere. I gotta go see him again. And then she goes back to the apartment, and that's when Norman gets his memory back, and it's just bad timing, and he captures her. But she never knew that he was Spider-Man. And the point being that she hated Spider-Man. She hated Spider-Man because Spider-Man killed her dad, and there was nothing you could do to convince her otherwise. So they would never have worked out. If she didn't die, they would not have gotten married. They would not have worked out. That relationship was doomed from the start, ever since he died. And the same thing, Gwen hates Spider-Man. Black Cat only likes Spider-Man. She doesn't like Peter. She's much more, keep the mask on. I don't care who you are underneath. I'm just interested in this cool spider guy. But Mary Jane is the only person that actually likes both of them at the same time. And I could probably keep going for another 20 minutes, but I'll probably just leave it there. Mary Jane likes both of them. Mary Jane is the only person that Peter should be with. And that's all I had to say about this topic.
Yeah, because I know that's something you've brought up to me before, and you're super passionate about it. And I have seen a huge hate towards Mary Jane online because of the Raimi movies, and then because of that, that's where they've written the whole Peter and MJ can't work it out, they can't be together, they should only stay friends because of the movies. And I can see the frustration. There's a few things with Marvel that they do with me. I think the way they write Logan and Jean is horrible. I think they shouldn't make Logan cuck himself for Jean. I think he should love Jean, but I think Synergy, honestly, I don't want to say ruining comics because that's thrown around. I think every other week somebody mentions comic books are dying when they're in their peak era, if anything. But I just think it's unfortunate that while comics are in such a good era right now, Marvel especially are really, ruining it. Like DC are taking this ball, and like I sound like such a DC glazer. But but DC had their era. I think some of the stuff in New 52, Superman was horrible during New 52. Really, it was really Action Comics carried Superman, and everything else was horrible. I know people didn't like Batman Rebirth. I know Diana was it. I'm reading New 52 Superman, and I'm not even kidding you. I do apologize, but Wonder Woman is literally one of the worst characters I've ever read in my life. Only during New 52.
I can't blame you there. Yeah.
Like, she's unbearable. I can't stand her. So DC had their era, had their time of bad comics, but I like it how they've gone, okay, this was a horrible time for us comics. We need to change it, and we need to start progressing these characters, because that was supposed to be their point. They're New 52, and I think I'll lead into now how back in the older comics, I will say in Superman, how it is so confusing to kind of understand what's going on with older comics. I think Superman, there was Action Comics, there was Adventures of Superman, and there was Man of Steel. There was four ongoing Superman runs, all telling one story. So for me, who's reading primarily Superman and Action Comics, one issue of Superman, it'll just be like a regular Superman story. The next, Jimmy Olsen's quit his job, Perry's got cancer, Clark and Lois aren't together again. And I'm like, hang on, what? And it's like, oh no, you missed 3 issues explaining all of this. Like, I'm not even kidding you. During Dan Yeager's run, Jimmy Olsen quits the Daily Planet about 3 or 4 times. Like, he'll get his job, quit, get his job, quit. So I guess as new fans, it's a bit more confusing to read older comics because it is hard, and I guess that's where the confusion is coming, because people are comparing it to manga. Because you look at Dragon Ball Z, for example, it's easy to start Dragon Ball. You start at volume 1, you read volume 2, volume 3, you read all the way up to volume 10, and then you start Dragon Ball Z, and then you read volume 1 to volume 12, and then you do that and that. Rather than Superman, it's like there's about 6 Action Comics issue 1s. Well, actually, there's only 2, but there's about 7 starting points. You can start with Superman. There's probably 14 with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem with the newer fans and getting into comics. And my problem with older comics is reading through a run, and it's like, reading one issue of Superman, pick up Action Comics. You read that issue of Action Comics, I'll pick up Adventures. Read that issue of Adventures, I'll pick up Man of Steel. That's something that
it would have been a nightmare back then, just trying to read a cohesive story.
Oh no, well, you gotta think how expensive it was. Like, there was a new...
Yeah.
You think about it, 4 ongoings, 4 weeks in a month, there's 1 issue coming out every week. So you've constantly got to stay up to date with it. Right now, Superman is its own story. Action Comics is its own story. Which is how it should be. Yeah, which is how it should be. So you can be like, New 52 is a good example. Superman sucked. Like, the Superman title sucked. But Action Comics was really good. I'm reading through Action Comics. I don't feel the urge to go, okay, I need to read this issue of Superman to understand what's going on in this issue of Action Comics, because it's its own separate story. I feel like more of that with DC, because I think Batman would have been the same. I'm sure there would have been Batman, Detective Comics, it would have been Batman: The Dark Knight or something like that. And I think X-Men was the same. X-Men, there was X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, and there was Wolverine, and then there was other X, especially in the 90s, bro. There was like X-Force, XG, X
Yeah.
this, X that, X-Tation. Like,
Speaking of 90s, I have a good it was exactly the same for Spider-Man as well. Probably one of the most controversial runs. The Clone Saga took place over so many different, and my screen is brighter because I've got the reading list up, and it goes Web of Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Man, Peter Parker, The Spectacular Spider-Man, Web of Spider-Man, Spider-Man Unlimited, Spider-Man, Web of Spider-Man, Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man. And it's like, how are you even supposed to keep? It's hard to do it now with like the internet and a laptop. And it's like, what do you mean Amazing Spider-Man and Spider-Man are two different comics? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I go to the local comic store and I'm like, oh, I need the new issue of Spider-Man. And you know, I guess I could mean Ultimate Spider-Man, but for the most part, you probably think I'm just talking about Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But no, Spider-Man was its own run as well. And then Amazing Spider-Man and Web of Spider-Man and Spider-Man Unlimited and Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man. And that's probably not even it. There's probably a couple more. But like, imagine trying to, like today, to read such a story that's just spanning across. And you can't just read like Amazing Spider-Man 394 and then 395 and then 396 because you're missing 7 issues in between those two stories. You know what I mean? So you can't just ignore it. You have to read it if you want to keep going. You have no choice.
Yeah, that's my problem through reading through Dan Yeager's Superman run. It's like I'll read issue 73, go on to 74, and there's like, and like I said, like Jimmy Olsen's quit his job, Perry's son's died, Clark Kent he's not there, Lois Lane's working as an actor. It's like, what is even going on? And it will just be like, and it was like, oh, this happened in Adventures, oh, this happened in Man of Steel.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my, and I've just learned to just like be like, okay, that happened, whatever. And it annoys me now because I'm close to finishing Dan Yeager's run, and I would like to go back and read Adventures of Superman, but I'm like, there's no point because I know what's going to happen. It's not going to be a shock value when Jimmy Olsen goes, I'm done with the Daily Planet, I'm quitting. I'm not going to be like, oh, what's going to happen? It's like, well, no, because I already know what happens because they explained every single thing in that issue. So I guess reading older comics, the shock value kind of goes away a little bit. I guess if you're reading an entire run of something, like you were saying with Spider-Man.
What's your opinion on how often do you reread comics you've already read? Like if you've already read a run and you're like, oh, I really enjoyed how I felt when I was reading that. I really enjoyed the story and those characters. Will you reread it, or you like one and done?
I'm a one and done person of reading it, but I always will sometimes just sit in my room and just flick through the run and just be like, oh yeah, that was a cool moment. I won't sit there and read it. The only comics where I've read a few times is I've read Old Man Logan. That's probably my most read. I just love that. That was a moment where like I truly fell in love with comics. So I have a very special place for that in my heart. I've read For All Seasons a few times now.
Yeah.
I love that.
Those are all smaller comics. Like
they're not like 50 issue runs. Like I would love.
Would you ever reread an issue that's 50 issues or more?
I would love to sit down and reread Immortal Hulk again. That's something that I'm really keen to sit down and read. I would think about reading Rebirth Superman again. It's my favorite Superman run. But I just, for me, it's just like, okay, I'm done with that run. What's the next one? You know, like I'm currently going through Wolverine. I'm like, okay, Larry Hamill's run done. What's after that? But yeah, I'll sometimes just go back and I'll flick through the omnibus or the issues, and I'm like, oh yeah, this happened. Like, oh yeah, that was a cool moment. I remember that was. But I'm not someone, because I know you reread like Ultimate and stuff like 3 or 4 times.
I have a big problem where I'll add something to my to read list and then just simply reread something that I've already read 10 times.
Yeah,
I've already read Ultimate Spider-Man all the way through, like, you know, maybe only 3 or 4 times. It's 160 issues though, so it's
Yeah,
not a small amount.
I've already read 700 issues at the same time.
Yeah, like I mean, that's like yeah, that is actually a crazy number, like 160 times four, whatever. Um, but it's for me, a part of it is I felt like it's such an important comic, and everybody has like something that's special to them, like a book or a movie or a comic
Mm,
that has more than just, oh, it was really good and I like the art. Like it means something, it has sentimental
yeah,
value, like it meant something to you at the time when you read it. And I read it in high school. Obviously, Ultimate Spider-Man, he's in high school. I had a lot of similarities. That's kind of where my Spider-Man thing started with Ultimate Spider-Man. Um, like I styled my hair to look like his, and that changed everything as well. Just like the haircut that I had changed everything. So I'll go back and I'll reread it and I'll feel the same way that I did back then, or I'll remember like a specific arc in the comic, and I'll be like, oh, I remember where I was, what year I was in, what was going on in my life at the time when I read this, and I feel good, and I feel like a little bit of nostalgia, and I feel like I'm connecting to the memory as well, not just rereading a comic.
mm,
That's why it's a bit more difficult to read a comic that I have no sentimental value
yeah,
to. Like if it's just a good story, like I might reread it, but I might not. But
yeah,
if it's got some important emotions to it, I find it a lot easier to reread, a lot easier to get through.
yeah. I will, we will, because it's something that interests me. We've spoken about one of my favorite comic book artists of all time, Alex Ross, the goat. If you're in the comic book industry, you know he's like the Leonardo da Vinci or whatever famous painter of comics. Like he's easily the greatest of all time if you want to determine of detail and things like that.
Yeah,
And I love hearing him talk about how he draws his comics because he draws it, he paints them. He's not like a pencilist or something. He paints it, and something he was talking about when he was growing up reading comics. He was going about how the costumes is for him especially is like that feeling of them being super has gone away because everybody's got tactical gear and armor and
yeah.
all that stuff. And I want to like,
He
what do
loves
you?
his classics.
He loves it. Like he just draws the good old skit body spandex suits. Um, and I do agree with him. Because he's kind of that feeling's kind of going away a little bit of that super in the superhero. We love. I mean, people go with Superman. We love the man in Superman, but we also love what makes him Superman. You know, not only his
Yeah,
powers and stuff, but his compassion and kindness and I feel like with superheroes that's kind of going away. I guess in Spidey's another good example where it's like what makes Spidey a great character is the triumphant battles he goes through and his progression through that and always looking through to the better side of things. So what do you think about Alex Ross and how he views superheroes and how he's kind of like the super in superheroes is gone?
I I I haven't heard what he like the specific words that he's used when he's talking about that, but I know exactly what when he paints and when he draws, when he illustrates, he's always trying to bring um the original, the classic, like what he saw when he was a kid. You know what I mean?
Mm,
If you look at, and it's all feels like they feel like photos, and that's because some
yeah,
of them, most of them are referenced from actual photos. But I mean more so in, you look at Superman's suit and you can see the seam lines in his shirt,
yeah,
or you look at Spidey's boots and you can see like the slight indentation of where each toe is,
mm,
or the mask won't line up 100% with the suit because he's just tucked it in, so like the webbing won't match. Um, and you don't really get that. I know Paulo Rivera, if I'm saying his name right, he drew a Ditko Spider-Man very similar in terms of concept to how Alex did it. Um, but I think he is one of the greats for a reason, and he does understand exactly why these superheroes are so special. And he manages to capture it without really saying anything. He can just draw it, and you know
mm.
what he's getting at, his message. That's why he's such an important, not just an artist in general, but a figure in comics. I'd say, in my opinion.
Yeah, easily because he's bringing that era back to superheroes. Well, he's trying to anyway. through his art, which is what I love in. And I think it's what's missing in today. Because, like I said, I think for Marvel, I just feel like when I watch the MCU, and then when you see the synergy, like we've spoken about, everybody's the same. You know what I mean? I just feel like everybody's got the same costume, everybody's got the same backstory. Nobody's really different. Everybody's gone through some sort of trauma, and they're all got military backgrounds, and I just feel like
Yeah.
there's no. I feel like, again, glazing DC, but like the difference between James Gunn said this best was like Gotham and Metropolis are two completely different cities, and there's a big difference between those two characters, and I feel like with Marvel Comics now, that just isn't there, while rather back then it was there. Like, reading X-Men was a completely different experience to reading Spider-Man. Spider-Man was a completely different experience to reading The Incredible Hulk. You got so much out of each comic that was so different to one another, where now it's kind of like it's all the same, and it's just boring. I'll pick up. There'll be like a new Cable run coming out. I love Cable. New Cable run. I'll pick up issue 1. Oh, this is just like some mundane superhero thing that I've read 100 million times.
Yeah. Now that you bring it up, there is a big epidemic of boring in modern comics. And don't get me wrong, some of the best comics we've had have been modern comics.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to trash on them in any way, but you see like so much. Oh, there's a new event, or there's a new thingy Bobby or whatever, and it's just like, maybe I'll check it out if when it's on the discount rack, or when it comes out on Marvel Unlimited or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I'll check it out, but you go online and people are like, yeah, it's okay, you can read it if you want. You know what I mean? It's like, well, like, what's the point anymore? Like, an event and a collab used to mean something, it used to be special, and seldom are they these days that good. Obviously, I feel like maybe now we might be in a little bit of a renaissance with Ultimate and Absolute. I feel like they're so popular. They're at the top of the lists on comic sales. Everybody's talking about them. Even characters like Martian Manhunter, who's one of my favorites, but he's never really been huge like all the other ones. But like, when his comic came out, I see it everywhere. I see people talking about how creative the page work was when you hold it up to the light, how interesting the idea is, like the blurring, like the blurring of his name, so like you're not sure if it's Martian Water Hunter, like it could be many different things. Like, a character like Martian Manhunter that makes so special and unique. I feel like we could be in a renaissance of modern comics now. It might take a year or two to see. This might just be like a little tiny raise in the bar, but it might be the start of something actually very special. But it really is like, time will tell. I feel like we're saying how people are buying these comics, so we're saying how important this is and how much we want these things to happen. So we just need to see if they're listening to us when we buy these.
Well, I think unfortunately that's I think, like you said, I think that's coming back, which is great. I think it's good to see the fans make an impact on comics like they did back in the day. I think Symbiote Spider-Man was actually drawn by a fan who was like, they were thinking about the new costumes of Spider-Man, and a kid drew the Symbiote one, and they were like, that's cool. And then now the Symbiote Spider-Man is one of the most iconic, maybe the most iconic Spider-Man suit besides the classic red and blue.
I'd say so, yeah.
And so that fan impact is happening again, which is important because as consumers ourselves, we want to feel a part of this. We want to be like, we're a part of this world. We're a part of this story. I feel like when the writers, not so much writers, I feel like editors, because they make the final decision at the end of the day, just kind of go, oh well, okay, well that's not really what the company wants. It doesn't represent the company or the business, or well, no, well, John Walker's written like this in Thunderbolt, so we have to write him like this in the comics now. It's just unfortunate that that's coming, but like you said, it's slowly coming back now. I think, like I said, with Wolverine, I think a lot of callbacks from some older runs, which is really nice to see. More appreciation for the characters. I think Ultimate Spider-Man is every Spidey's dream for him to finally get a family and some kids and be a dad. And the same with Superman. It's just to see Batman progress as kind of a father and a more kinder person, and still be that dark, edgy, broody Batman we love. I think it's nice.
Yeah, I think for the main part, it really is just keeping consistent, with the sales and with how they're acting. I think I'm feeling pretty good about it. I feel like the lowest has already been. I feel like we're in a climb.
Yeah.
But it really is just waiting and seeing. Unfortunately, there's a big chance that I'm gone crazy and I'm just looking into things too much. But I feel like even with the movie side, things look pretty good.
Thunderbolts.
James Gunn's DCU looks really good. The Thunderbolts was really good. We saw that together. That was really good. I enjoyed that. Fantastic Four looks really good.
Yeah.
Doomsday, I have no idea. I mean, it could be a cameo slot, but I feel like Thunderbolts is good. Fantastic Four is going to be good. There's no way that movie sucks.
Yeah, Superman's going to be the most peak thing of all peak.
It's going to be good. If movies are coming back, I feel like hopefully the synergy stays for that as well. I'd hate for the synergy to fall off and then the movies become good and the comics stay slow. I have a good feeling though. I feel like we're on a climb. I feel like movie going to get better, comics going to get better.
Yeah.
It might take 2 years though. Minimum 2 years.
It's
sure. A bit of a wait.
Sure. I think also, I will just say for the video, I think this is a good time to kind of wrap things up, ending on a good note with our hopes and dreams for the comics industry. I will say, as someone who's been reading comic books for a very long time, please take the time to go back and read these older comics. You don't have to read every single Romita comic. You don't have to read the entire Silver Age. That's not what people are asking you. Just go back and just kind of appreciate what these characters are, the foundations of those characters. There's some really fun stories in there. And I think when you look at the Bronze Age, like 70s and 80s, I think there's some really good heartfelt stories that I know what we've been saying, that a lot of fans are saying that they're not getting in modern comics. Well, they were there. They are there in the 70s and 80s. You know? So please go and appreciate those stories, because there are some really good ones, and it gives a lot of limelight to these amazing writers that aren't really with us anymore, so that their work can still be in the spotlight and still carry on.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, read. It can be very overwhelming when going back to these old comics. There's so many, as we were talking about before, there's so many ongoings. There's if you look at a character like Superman, Batman, or Spider-Man, there's literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comics, and you're like, I don't know where to start. It's so many. It's just read at your own pace. Take it slow. Yeah. If you find it boring, just leave it and come back to it later. There's no rush. I went through that problem myself. I was like, I have to read everything, and I have to read it quick, and I have to read it now, and I'm not going to read it tomorrow. I'm going to read it tonight. Yeah. And I got bored of it, or I rushed it and I didn't really read it, and then I didn't understand it, and then I was like, oh, this sucks. Just read at your own pace, and you'll find something truly beautiful in these old comics, and you'll appreciate the newer comics even more once you've read the old ones.
Yeah,
so
easily.
It's a win-win for everybody, really.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good way to wrap up the first video.
Yeah.
Of the
on a high note.
Of the Born Again era is what we'll call it. Thank you very much for tuning in on today's episode. Next episode, we're not too sure. We're going to keep you on the edge of your seats for next week's episode, but there will be a lot of content going through the Instagram and TikTok accounts.
Stay tuned, fellas.
Stay tuned. There'll be some fun. We're going to do some comic book hauls, some mini vlogs, things like that. We really want to push the channel out again. the new rebrand again, Born Again era. So thank you very much for taking the time to watching. Please comment down below if there's anything that we missed or anything you'd like us to talk about in another episode, because we could make another one of these older comics versus new comics. So please leave a comment to let us know if there's anything we missed or anything we can talk about in a future episode. So I just want to say thank you again very much for watching this new episode, and we hope you guys enjoy. Please like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Peace, guys.
Light as a feather when I'm floating through, reading through the daily news, measuring the hurt within the golden rule.